I need the trio. Usually two of us take like background parts and then he'll do the bass line most of the time. And then he says our beatboxer.
They dazzled the world with nothing but their voices. 5 young dreamers who rose from a high school hallway to global stardom. Their harmonies were flawless, their chemistry magnetic, and their success meteoric. But behind the viral covers, the Grammy wins, and the immaculate smiles was a different story, a story that no microphone ever recorded. It's a story of silent battles, hidden heartbreak, and the kind of pressure that doesn't just strain a group, it nearly breaks it. This is the untold journey of Pentatonix. How 5 voices found unity, how fame tested their humanity, and how the loss of a single member left a wound that shaped everything that came after. And the truth behind their rise is far sadder and far more powerful than the world ever realized. Origins of a revolution. How 3 friends sparked a global phenomenon. Long before they became a global musical force, Pentatonix began as something far smaller, quieter, and unassuming. The shared spark of 3 teenagers finding refuge in music. In the suburban corridors of Martin High School in Arlington, Texas, 3 classmates were unknowingly laying the groundwork for a revolution in a cappella that the world wasn't ready for. Scott Hoying, tall, charismatic, and brimming with creative instincts, was the dreamer. He was the kind of teenager who felt music rather than merely performed it, someone whose presence naturally anchored a room. Beside him was Kirsten Maldonado, whose voice carried both clarity and warmth, a tone that glowed through harmonies with unmistakable strength. And then there was Mitch Grassi, a singular talent whose vocal range and theatrical flair set him apart from almost everyone his age. Together, they didn't just sing, they blended, weaving their voices into something that felt larger than the sum of its parts. Their friendship was more than musical chemistry. It was emotional survival. Each of them, in their own ways, felt like outsiders, too expressive, too artistic, too different for the rigid norms of high school life. But when they harmonized in hallways or empty classrooms, the world seemed to soften. The restrictions that held them back loosened, and the trio realized something. Together, they had found both a sanctuary and a purpose. Their first brush with recognition came almost by accident. A local radio station was hosting a contest, the prize being a chance to meet the cast of Glee. Scott convinced Mitch and Kirsten to record a cover of Lady Gaga's Telephone. They lost the contest, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the spark it ignited. People listened. People noticed. And for the first time, the trio saw a glimpse of what they could become. Years later, when Scott left Texas to study at the University of Southern California, the dream didn't fade. Instead, it evolved. Scott joined the prestigious SoCal Vocals, a powerhouse a cappella group that had already secured national recognition. Being immersed in that environment broadened his musical palette, but it also reminded him of the bond he had left behind. Then came the opportunity that would change everything. NBC's The Sing-Off was holding auditions for its 3rd season, and Scott felt something deep, intuitive, a pull he couldn't ignore. He knew he couldn't compete alone, so he reached out to the 2 people who had first shaped his musical identity, Mitch and Kirsten. But there was a problem. The Sing-Off required groups of 5. They had only 3. That's when fate intervened. First came Avi Kaplan, a vocal bass so rich and resonant that it felt like the ground itself vibrated beneath him. Avi wasn't just talented, he was trained, experienced, and deeply respected in the a cappella world. His tone didn't merely fill space, it created foundation. Then entered Kevin Olusola, a Yale graduate who had stunned the internet with a viral phenomenon the world had never seen before. Cello boxing, playing the cello while beatboxing simultaneously, a skill so unique It defied categorization. Kevin didn't just expand the ensemble's range, he expanded its possibilities. The five of them met the day before their audition. One day. That was all it took. When they stepped onto that audition stage, something happened. Something electric. Their harmonies locked in effortlessly, their risks paid off boldly, and their sound immediately separated them from every other group. They weren't just performing arrangements, they were reinventing the songs themselves, sculpting pop hits into new art. Song after song, they dominated the sing-off. Their artistry was precise yet explosive, unexpected yet instantly addictive. They had become a musical organism, five voices breathing as one. And when they won Season 3 in 2011, it felt inevitable. Yet victory did not bring the smooth path they expected. Instead, it delivered a harsh and painful truth about the industry. No one knew what to do with a cappella. No label, no executive, no strategist could see the future that Pentatonix was already building. Just months after signing with Epic Records, they were dropped. A moment that could have marked the end of their journey instead became the catalyst for a new beginning, a digital rebellion that would redefine modern music and rewrite the rules of success. But beneath this triumphant rise, cracks were already forming, not in the music, but in the hearts of the people making it. Cracks that fame would widen, expectations would strain, and time would eventually expose. What looked like destiny was already carrying the weight of tragedy. None of them knew it yet, but those quiet harmonies were about to ignite a musical revolution that would change their lives forever. But every revolution begins with a spark, and this one came with a price no one saw coming. Rise to fame, triumphs, turmoil, and the weight of perfection. Being dropped by their label should have been the end of Pentatonix. Many groups never recover from such a blow, especially so early in their careers. But Pentatonix was not a typical group. They weren't built on industry connections or commercial formulas. They were built on stubborn passion, unconventional talent, and a willingness to take risks no one else would. When Epic Records let them go, the five members were forced into an uncomfortable truth. If they wanted a future, they had to create it themselves. So they turned to the one stage that required no permission: YouTube. From their small apartment in Los Angeles, they began recording covers with nothing more than determination, a camera, and arrangements crafted with surgical precision. Their sound, sharp and innovative on the sing-off, translated beautifully to the digital age. The group understood the rhythm of the internet: short, powerful, shareable performances that demanded attention within seconds. And the internet responded. Their cover of Somebody That I Used to Know skyrocketed. Evolution of Music went viral. Video after video amassed millions of views, and their subscriber count exploded. Pentatonix had bypassed the traditional music industry entirely, building a global audience from scratch. Their fans, Pentaholics, didn't just like their music, they were devoted to it. But behind this incredible rise, a pressure began brewing. When you gain millions of new fans almost overnight, expectations follow. The group was no longer creating for fun or curiosity. They were creating for survival, consistency, and the demands of a rapidly growing audience. Every arrangement had to be tighter. Every performance had to be flawless. Every upload had to outperform the one before. Perfection wasn't a goal. It became the standard, the unspoken requirement for their continued success. And it came at a cost. As their online fame surged, their workload intensified. Content creation became constant. Touring schedules grew longer. Rehearsals became more demanding. And with every new album or video, The stakes climbed higher. For the world, Pentatonix looked invincible, a unified force whose harmonies blended effortlessly, whose smiles never cracked, whose chemistry seemed unbreakable. But the truth behind the scenes was more complicated. Each member was dealing with pressures the public never saw. Scott, naturally charismatic and positioned as a front-facing leader, felt immense pressure to hold the group together. The burden of creative direction, communication, branding, and expectations rested heavily on his shoulders. Kirsten, as the only woman in the group, often carried a different kind of weight: scrutiny, criticism, and the pressure to constantly prove she belonged in a male-dominated lineup. Mitch, brilliant and ethereal, struggled quietly with identity, confidence, and the emotional strain of life lived in a spotlight that didn't always feel comforting. Kevin, steady and disciplined, wrestled with balancing faith, ambition, and the personal sacrifices that came with constant touring and global performances. And Avi, the deep, resonant anchor of their sound, was fighting a battle the others couldn't see clearly at first. The silent strain on Avi Kaplan. From the outside, Avi seemed unshakable, grounded, calm, a quiet presence whose voice provided the group's foundation. But on the inside, the relentless pace of fame was wearing him down. He wasn't built for the spotlight. He was built for simplicity, nature, and authenticity. For Avi, music was spiritual, a connection, not a spectacle. But Pentatonix, by this point, was a machine. A successful machine, but a machine nonetheless. Every tour meant months away from home. Every photo shoot, every rehearsal, every moment spent performing required a version of himself that didn't always feel natural. He loved his bandmates deeply, but the life surrounding the music, the travel, the noise, the pressure, slowly became suffocating. Fans noticed Avi's quietness, his reserved body language, his subtle fatigue, but they didn't understand the depth of what he was carrying. Even the group themselves didn't fully realize how much weight sat on his shoulders, at least not yet. Though fans saw only polished performances and picture-perfect harmonies, the exhaustion was building privately. Hotels, planes, buses, the constant motion blurred their days together. The group was a family, but even families break under enough strain. And within those quiet cracks, something fragile started to shift. The unspoken truth was this: success came fast, but it demanded a sacrifice none of them were prepared for. Even as they collected Grammys, hit billions of views, and sold out tours, emotional fractures deepened beneath the surface. What made them extraordinary also made them vulnerable. The intensity of their artistry, the closeness of their harmony, the expectations of their fans, and the pressure to uphold a perfect legacy. Soon, one member would reach a breaking point that the world didn't see coming. A moment that would change Pentatonix forever. To fans, he was unshakable. To the group, he was their foundation. But even the strongest pillars can crack. As Pentatonix soared higher, Avi was silently slipping away, caught between the music he loved and a life he could no longer survive. The breaking point. Avi Kaplan's silent struggle and heartbreaking exit. For years, Avi Kaplan's deep bass had been the backbone of Pentatonix, the warmth beneath their harmonies, the grounding energy that balanced their bold arrangements. Fans adored him, not just for his voice, but for his gentle presence, his humility, and the quiet strength he brought to the group. But quietly, a storm had been building inside him. Avi loved music deeply, but fame was never his dream. The constant lights, the endless travel, the pressure to perform, and the constant noise, it chipped away slowly. Then, all at once, the other four members thrived under the spotlight, finding joy in the touring lifestyle and the adrenaline of performing before thousands. But for Avi, Each tour felt like leaving a piece of himself behind. He needed quiet. He needed nature. He needed stillness. And those things didn't exist in the world Pentatonix lived in. He admired his bandmates' resilience, but internally, he could feel the cracks deepening. Despite his success, he felt less and less like himself. Fans saw only the perfectly blended chords and polished videos, but behind the scenes, Avi's heart was somewhere else, longing for simplicity, longing for home, longing to breathe. What made his struggle even more painful was the love he had for the group. Pentatonix wasn't just a job, it was family. Walking away felt unthinkable, until staying became impossible. In 2017, Avi made the decision he had feared for years. He would leave Pentatonix. His voice shook as he recorded the farewell video, a moment that would shatter millions of fans. He did not blame the group. He did not blame fame. Instead, he spoke with honesty, vulnerability, and heartbreak. It's just been hard for me to not be able to see my family, to not be able to make the music that feels true to me. There was no scandal, no drama, only pain. Avi's departure felt like the loss of a pillar. For many fans, he was the soul of the group, the grounding presence that made Pentatonix's sound feel complete. His exit shook the fanbase to its core, leaving questions and grief that lingered long after the announcement. When Avi left, something shifted, not just musically, but emotionally. Fans, too, struggled. Many couldn't imagine Pentatonix without Avi's profound bass lines or his calming presence. Social media swelled with heartbreak, support, confusion, and nostalgia. But grief was only part of the story. The remaining members were faced with an impossible question. Could Pentatonix survive without Avi Kaplan? A replacement would never be another Avi. That was impossible. But the group had to move forward. Enter Matt Sallee, a gifted baritone with a rich bass range, a bright personality, and a humility that fit perfectly with the group's ethos. On paper, he was everything Pentatonix needed. But emotionally, the transition was complicated. Pentatonix is a group where every voice matters, exposed, intertwined, vulnerable. Joining meant stepping into a legacy with passionate fans who were still grieving. Still, Matt persevered with grace. He honored Avi's legacy without imitating it, slowly building trust with fans and earning his place within the group. With Matt on board, Pentatonix continued touring, creating albums and winning awards. Their harmonies remained exquisite. Their arrangements evolved. Their success continued. But something beneath the surface had changed. Avi's departure became a symbol, not of failure, but of fragility. It revealed the unseen emotional labor behind fame. It exposed the pressure that comes with constant perfection. It reminded fans that even the most talented artists are human, with breaking points, limits, and dreams that don't always align with fame. And within the group, the absence lingered. Avi had been a founding member, a brother, a creative force. His laughter, his humility, his deep spiritual grounding, those things don't disappear when someone steps off stage. In interviews, the remaining members spoke kindly of Avi, but avoided sinking into sadness. They chose gratitude. They chose growth. They chose music. He began creating the music his soul resonated with, earthy, folk-inspired, spiritual, songs filled with raw honesty and emotional depth. His solo work revealed something undeniable. Avi's voice belonged exactly where he chose to place it. Fans continued to support him, many finally understanding that his departure wasn't abandonment, it was survival. Avi's exit wasn't the tragedy of Pentatonix. The real tragedy was what it revealed. Even the brightest stars can be dimmed by pressure. Even the strongest harmonies can hide silent suffering. Even the most successful artists can feel lost inside their own dreams. But from this tragedy came a deeper truth. After the storm, reinvention, new voices, and hidden emotional battles. Avi Kaplan's departure marked the end of an era, but it also forced Pentatonix into a new chapter, one that demanded reinvention, resilience, and a rediscovery of identity. The group had lost not just a voice, but a spiritual anchor. In the wake of that loss, each member found themselves navigating unfamiliar emotional terrain, trying to understand what Pentatonix was now, and who they were within it. When Matt Salih stepped into the role of bass, he inherited not just a position, but a legacy. His arrival was both exciting and terrifying. Fans were grieving Avi, and Matt walked straight into that grief with humility and determination. His warm tone and gentle spirit helped ease the transition, but he felt the weight of expectation in every rehearsal and performance. He had to find a balance between honoring Avi's memory and bringing his own identity to the group. Slowly, he did just that. Over time, he evolved from the new guy into an irreplaceable part of the Pentatonix sound. Yet even as he gained confidence, he wrestled with the internal question of whether he truly belonged. A quiet emotional battle the public rarely saw. Meanwhile, Scott Hoying continued carrying the heavy burden of leadership. To fans, he always looked confident, smiling, polished, in control. But behind the scenes, the pressure was relentless. He felt responsible for keeping the group's momentum alive, for maintaining the brand, for ensuring their fans remained inspired. When the world shut down in 2020, Scott was forced to slow down for the first time in years. In the sudden silence, he confronted anxieties and fears he had long buried, questions about identity, mental health, and the constant fear of letting people down. His marriage to his partner, Mark Manio, in 2023 became a powerful moment of joy and grounding. But in interviews afterward, he admitted that the emotional strain of leading Pentatonix had left him depleted. His smile had always been bright, but for the first time, he acknowledged the weight behind it. Mitch Grassi, always the group's most enigmatic and expressive member, entered his own chapter of self-discovery. Pentatonix had given him a platform, but it had also placed boundaries on how he could express himself artistically. During the quiet of the pandemic, he explored a deeper, darker artistic identity through his solo project, Messa. The music was intimate and bold, and the transformation allowed him to explore sides of himself he had kept tucked away for years. It was a liberation, but also an emotional test. In public, Mitch's confidence was captivating, but privately, he acknowledged how vulnerability could feel like exposure. His journey through music and fashion became a testament to authenticity, a reinvention that resonated deeply with those who admired his fearless self-expression. Kirstine Maldonado faced a different but equally challenging struggle. As the only woman in the group, she had long-shouldered expectations no one else had to carry. She felt responsible for maintaining unity, for balancing energies, for being the emotional center when tensions rose. Yet her identity often became overshadowed by the group's male-dominated dynamic. The pandemic gave her a chance to breathe and reclaim parts of herself she had set aside for years. Returning to solo music allowed her to rediscover her own voice, one shaped by heartbreak, growth, and self-worth. She began to speak openly about the pressures of being a woman in the industry and the emotional labor she often carried. With each new project, she stepped further into her own power, proving she was more than the harmonies she blended into. She was an artist ready to stand alone when needed. For Kevin Olusola, the stillness of the pandemic became a moment of spiritual and personal rebirth. Becoming a father fundamentally changed his perspective. The fast-paced touring lifestyle that once energized him now felt misaligned with the quiet grounding he sought for his family. He leaned into faith and introspection, finding comfort and strength in spiritual practice. His solo album, Dawn of a Misfit, became a deeply personal project that explored self-evolution and purpose. In interviews, Kevin reflected on how the album mirrored his own transformation, stepping into new chapters of fatherhood, artistry, and personal truth. Even as he continued to hold Pentatonix together with his calm presence, he now carried a renewed sense of identity that extended far beyond the stage. Together, these internal transformations reshaped Pentatonix in ways the public could sense but not fully understand. Their harmony, once effortless, had become something more intentional, woven from growth, pain, and rediscovery. Each member had changed, not just musically, but emotionally. Their sound reflected not only technical evolution, but lived experience. They returned to the world a group transformed, molded by grief and healing, reinvention, and resilience. The tragedy of Pentatonix was never a scandal or a feud. It was the quiet suffering behind success, the emotional sacrifices required to maintain a perfect image, the personal battles that echoed behind the smiles and flawless harmonies. But it was also a story of survival. Through loss, identity shifts, and overwhelming expectations, they remained a family, one that learned to adapt, to evolve, and to rediscover harmony even when the world went silent around them. Pentatonix didn't just endure change, they grew from it. And in doing so, they became something more profound than a viral a cappella group. They became a testament to what happens when humans refuse to break, even when the world only hears the music, not the struggle behind it. From the outside, they seem stronger than ever. But behind the curtain, the years have carved scars that even harmony can't hide. As each member confronts who they've become, one question haunts their future. Can Pentatonix continue as one, or has the price of perfection finally caught up with them? Let's find out. Legacy, loss, and the price of harmony. Where Pentatonix stands today. More than a decade after their unexpected rise from a high school trio to global a cappella giants, Pentatonix stands as one of the most influential vocal groups in modern music. Their journey, full of triumphs, fractures, reinventions, and quiet heartbreak, has shaped not only who they are as artists, but who they are as people. Time has changed them. Fame has changed them. Loss has changed them. And yet, through every transformation, they have remained united by one unshakable thread: the music that made them family. From the outside, Pentatonix appears indestructible. Their world tours still sell out. Their holiday specials remain a beloved tradition, marking the start of the festive season for millions of families. Their YouTube channel continues to draw billions of views, introducing their sound to new generations of listeners. Even as music trends shifted wildly, Pentatonix held their ground. Proof that pure Hikiti human voice, stripped of instruments and artifice, still has the power to move the world. But behind the scenes, the group's evolution has been far more human, tender, and complicated. Years of relentless schedules once pushed them to their limits, but now they operate differently, more self-aware, more protective of their mental health, more intentional with their creativity. They no longer chase algorithms or trends. They create from a place of connection, not pressure. Scott has grown into a leader who understands the balance between ambition and well-being. He still pushes boundaries, but he does so with a clearer sense of purpose. His marriage grounded him, softening some of the anxieties that once kept him awake at night. He remains the group's visionary, but now he leads with vulnerability instead of fear. Mitch continues to expand the edges of his identity, both musically and personally. His fearless experimentation, whether through fashion, solo work, or vocal evolution, has inspired countless fans to explore their own authenticity. He remains one of the group's most transformative elements, a reminder that art grows only when the artist grows too. Kirsten has stepped fully into her power, embracing a voice that belongs not just to harmony, but to truth. Years of balancing emotional expectations within the group taught her strength, resilience, and the value of her own story. Her renewed artistic identity brings depth to the group, raw, human, and fiercely real. Kevin, the heartbeat of Pentatonix, has emerged from the pandemic with a renewed sense of clarity. Fatherhood reoriented his priorities, but it did not dim his passion. Instead, it sharpened it. Through his solo projects and interviews, he has become a voice for balance and spiritual grounding, reminding fans and fellow musicians alike that success means nothing without inner peace. And Matt Sallee, once the newcomer walking into a storm of expectations, has become family. His warm presence, humility, and powerhouse bass not only filled a void, but helped reshape the group's sound. Through years of perseverance, he found his place, not by replacing Avi, but by becoming himself. In doing so, he healed a part of the fan base that once feared Pentatonix could never feel whole again. Together, their story is no longer just about music. It is about endurance, about rediscovering harmony after heartbreak, about the cost of success and the courage required to evolve without losing yourself. They learned that harmony isn't a static state. It changes, breathes, fractures, repairs, and transforms. They learned that true unity comes not from perfection, but from honesty. Today, Pentatonix stands not merely as performers, but as survivors of an industry that often consumes more than it gives. They have endured burnout, lineup changes, personal demons, overwhelming expectations, and the silent pressures of fame. And yet, they continue to rise, voices intertwined, resilient as ever. Their legacy is not defined solely by their Grammys, viral hits, or sold-out tours. It's defined by the millions of people their music has comforted, inspired, or carried through darkness. It's defined by their willingness to be vulnerable, to change, to keep singing even when the world felt heavy. What lies ahead remains a mystery. Perhaps more albums, perhaps more daring reinventions, maybe new solo ventures, maybe one day a gentle, graceful farewell. But for now, Pentatonix remains a living testament to the power of voice, not just the one that sings, but the one that speaks truth. And as long as their voices rise together, one thing remains clear. Pentatonix's greatest harmony has always come from their humanity. In the end, the true legacy of Pentatonix is not defined by trophies or chart-topping hits, but by the humanity behind the harmony. They proved that greatness isn't born through perfection. It's forged through resilience, vulnerability, and the courage to evolve when life demands it. Each member walked through their own storm, carrying doubts, exhaustion, grief, and transformation. Yet through every fracture, they found a way to continue singing, together or apart, guided by the same passion that brought them together as teenagers in Texas. Pentatonix didn't just change a cappella. They changed the way the world listens to the human voice, raw, unfiltered, and honest. Their story reminds us that harmony is not the absence of struggle. It's the triumph of unity despite it. And as long as their voices continue to rise, their journey will remain a powerful testament to what it means to create, to endure, and to stay true to yourself in a world that demands otherwise. If this journey moved you, hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which chapter of their story shocked you the most? And what do you think the future holds for Pentatonix? Stay tuned, because their harmony may have changed, but their impact is far from over.